Have a lot going on this hour. Russia's new deadline to Ukrainian fighters holding out in a steel factory in Mariupol, telling them to surrender, just passed. But Ukraine's forces have made it clear they will not lay down their arms. This is incredible. There are people holed up in a steel plant, civilians as well. The commander of the Ukrainian forces in Mariupol is describing the conditions his troops and civilians are facing in that steel plant. Speaking to the Washington Post yesterday, he said the situation is, quote, tragic and critical, saying there are at least 500 injured people in the factory. We've got pictures from inside the makeshift bomb shelter in the plant. Children, women, the last remaining civilians in Mariupol. Describing the situation inside the plant, he said the fighters and civilians were sheltered in an underground system of tunnels. Quote, it's in the basement where people just rot. There is no medication. He also warned that his forces are outnumbered and may only have hours to live. He appealed to the Biden administration to help save those who had, quote, fallen into this trap. The commander reiterated that Ukrainian forces will not surrender. Willie.
Holding out with those civilians. Joining us now, retired U.S. Army Colonel Peter Mansour. He served 26 years in the armed services, including as an executive officer to General David Petraeus during the Iraq War. Colonel, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Your initial impressions of this new invasion, a new front in the war, as Russia is calling it, into the Donbass, in the eastern part of the country. They've had time to pull back, regroup, rearm, resupply. What does it look like so far?
Well, I'm not sure the Russians have entirely regrouped. They took a beating in their initial invasion, and they're going to need more time than this to reconstitute their forces. So they've begun with a giant artillery and air bombardment, but the Ukrainians are dug in pretty deep. They've been in this area since 2014 fighting the Russians, and it's unclear whether the Russians are going to be able to make any significant headway because they have the same forces that they used and failed in the battle for Kyiv. So this is going to take a while to sort out on the ground. There's not many observers there, but my money's on the Ukrainians.
So, but Colonel, as you know, I'm sure you're well aware that the Russian idea of waging war is to prep the field with humongous numbers of artillery shots. They will level Mariupol more than they've leveled it now. Do you have any idea of how we could go about a humanitarian effort to rescue the people, some of whom we just saw on our TV screens, who are literally on death row in that steel plant in Mariupol? Are we going to leave them there as captives, just waiting to die? Is there any way that your imagination or your professional career can give us some counsel, some advice, some direction on how a humanitarian effort can be made to help these people escape where they are now?
Well, I'm afraid the Azovstal steel plant has become the Alamo of the Ukraine war. The Ukrainians do not want to give it up. They don't want to surrender because that would be surrendering Mariupol. This is the last bastion of their defense in that city. Were they to give it up, they might be able to arrange for a humanitarian corridor to get civilians out. But that would be giving up their objective as well. This is all up to the Russians, whether they want to declare a ceasefire temporarily to get the wounded and the civilians out. But I doubt they'll do it, given that they've attacked many Ukrainian cities and deliberately killed women and children to inflict pain on the Ukrainians. I don't see the Russians allowing the wounded and the civilians out of this battle.
Oh, my God.
The United States is reportedly among the countries sending spare aircraft parts to the Ukrainian military. In a Pentagon briefing yesterday, Press Secretary John Kirby revealed the latest assistance from the U.S. and announced other countries were providing Ukraine with entire fighter aircraft.
They have received additional aircraft and aircraft parts to help them, get more aircraft in the air. We certainly have helped with the transshipment of some additional spare parts that have helped with their aircraft needs. but we have not transported whole aircraft. Look, the proof's in the pudding there. I mean, they right now have available to them more fixed-wing fighter aircraft than they did 2 weeks ago.
Kirby insisted the U.S. has not provided Ukraine with fighter aircraft, though last week the Pentagon did announce it was sending 11 helicopters to aid Ukraine's efforts in the war. And Ukraine's president has been asking NATO countries to send his forces fighter jets since the war began. And now a group of Ukrainians are appealing directly to the world's wealthiest people.
Whoever you are, a businessman, an IT specialist, an actor or a singer, whichever nationality you are or country you live in, you can help us to stop the terror. Buy me a fighter jet.
This video is being shared across social media with the hashtag #BuyMeAFighterJet. Many Twitter users have been tagging some of the world's richest people, including Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Bill Gates. The group behind this effort estimates each plane costs about $25 million.
So, Colonel, I wanted to go back to what John Kirby said, what Admiral Kirby said. I remember after the polls had posted up their offer, their suggestion that the MiGs were going to be sent to Germany and then transported. The United States obviously had to say no at that point because somebody had gotten out in front of everybody else. But I just figured it would be a matter of time before MiGs found their way into Ukraine one way or the other. I just didn't want to hear about it. And I know you probably didn't want to hear about it. It sounds, if you listen to what Admiral Kirby says, read between the lines, they're figuring out a way to get MiGs. They're figuring out a way to get, they being NATO countries, figuring out a way to get fixed-winged aircraft into the country. The fact that John said they have more fixed-wing aircraft in Ukraine today than they did 2 weeks ago is a tell, is it not?
What they're doing is they're sending spare parts to fix the planes that are already there. They didn't send any entire planes. And, you know, look, the MiG-29s that were in Poland, that Poland wanted to send, you know, that's 1980s technology. What Ukraine needs are F-16s and more advanced fighter jets to take on the Russians. I think there is an increasing realization in the Biden administration and in NATO that they're going to have to provide air defense systems, mid to high level, planes, tanks, artillery, if they're going to see this war through to a successful conclusion. And look, we have to win this war. But Vladimir Putin cannot be allowed to use his nuclear shield to take over a neighbor. That would be disastrous for the world as a whole. So I think what we're going to see is an increasing flow of weapons into Ukraine, but they're starting with spare parts to fix the stuff that's already there.